back in North Carolina, and the EPA in North Carolina was running tests. They were actually hooking people up to diesel tailpipes, and they were trying to show how harmful fine particulate matter was. We'd had Lisa Jackson, who at the time was head of the EPA, saying that she wasn't talking about people simply getting sick, but she was talking about people dying from fine particulate matter. Nevertheless, they were giving these people 70 times the safe level that the EPA itself had said. We tried to get a stay order on that and eventually failed because the government said, no, that's okay. We're going to experiment on these people anyway. They were searching for people who had respiratory issues or heart issues and then hooking them up to diesel tailpipes. And so when we look at this kind of gain of function, this kind of human experimentation that our own government does with impunity to our own citizens constantly, I'm looking at this Department of Defense is going to put in $1.76 million for the military to track the Zika virus. I mean, is that, we've seen these types of things done in the subways where they track it. I mean, that's one aspect of this, isn't it?
Well, they just released simulated biowarfare agents on the New York subway system, and also the Boston subway system.
Yes.
Despite the fact the last time this was done, it turned out that the simulants were fatal to certain categories of people. So we have no idea about these simulants, but basically they're testing out the effectiveness of their biowarfare agents on cities, whether they're foreign cities or our own cities. We know for a fact that the anthrax attacks of October 2001, that came from elements of the United States government. That was super weapons grade anthrax, probably produced by Fort Detrick, Dugway, and Battelle. And it was Battelle that recently released these biowarfare simulants on the Boston MTA.
So isn't it interesting that they would have, just as we're coming up to the Summer Olympics, we're going to have people from all over the world going to Brazil. Isn't it interesting that this weaponized Zika, along with the weaponized mosquitoes that they've genetically engineered, show up in Brazil? At the same time, we've got the Department of Defense coming out and providing a couple of $1 million to track its spread throughout the world. Isn't that interesting?
Well, the Zika Olympics should be moved for sure. That's a no-brainer. This GE Zika is just too dangerous. We know that it basically destroys fetuses in the woman's womb. We also know it gives Guillain-Barré syndrome that paralyzes people. There are all sorts of other side effects that happen to adult males and adult females. We simply do not know yet the total consequences of how dangerous this GE Zika really is. And second of all, it is easily transmittable by a mosquito bite. It goes by blood, one of the ways. So, for example, if you go to Brazil for the Olympics and you get bitten by one of these mosquitoes, then you go home and you get bitten by another mosquito, that second mosquito can then convey the GE Zika to someone else. And, it could be a pregnant woman or a woman contemplating getting pregnant.
And of course, it is sexually transmitted as well, we've heard. I'm not sure if you agree with that or not. We don't know for sure. But of course, you say they need to shut down the Olympics. They know they're not going to shut down the Olympics. If it was any other kind of event, yeah, there would be a chance we could shut it down. But people are so sports crazy. This is the perfect venue for them to release this. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Francis Boyle. Where can they find more information about you? Okay, we'll be right back.
We're on the march.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host. We're joining our reporters now in Anaheim, California. Jagari Jackson and crew are in California for the Trump rally tonight. Of course, they were in Albuquerque, New Mexico last night. You can see the videos that they shot. Amazing video at Infowars.com. It's linked at the Drudge Report on video. And Jakari Jackson, we're going to talk to right now, was actually Jakari. You got stoned last night, right?
I was stoned by anti-Trump zealot, I guess you would say. Jakari Jackson reporting live from Anaheim, California. But what you're referring to, David, was a situation that happened out in Albuquerque. And what that was is the guy who hit me with the rock. This is after protesters had breached the barricades that the police had set up. This is several hours later. Many people were beating on the glass to the convention center, trying to actually break into the door. The cops eventually came with the riot gear, with the horses, started pushing people back. And that's when they eventually had to get to the point where they used tear gas because people were throwing things not just at the police officers, but the horses as well. And it's just a matter of time before the horses decide to trample somebody.
You got somebody there yelling behind you right now. It's already heating up there in Anaheim. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. I'll give you a quick panoramic. So this is the scene outside the Anaheim Convention Center. And there's a good crowd out here. It's not as many people as it was last night, but there's still plenty of people out here. Of course, the officers out here, Secret Service as well. But going back to the story with the rock, this guy, or a bunch of guys, it wasn't just him, but that's the one guy who was on camera at the time, were throwing rocks, not just at the police, but at the demonstrators, because these guys were in the back of the crowd throwing the rocks forward, so they didn't have very good aim. And the guy who hit me picked up a handful of rocks, so I wasn't his intended target. I was only like 10 yards away from him, but in that handful of rocks, he threw, one of them hit me in the face right over here. Like I say, he didn't hit me too hard because he wasn't aiming for me, but, I decided to confront him about that, and he just took off running. When he was confronted with the light of the truth, I said, hey, man, why you hit me with a rock? And he takes off running. But as of right now, everybody is pretty peaceful. Of course, you do have your demonstrators out here, pro and against Trump, and that's some of the people that you hear there in the background. But right now, it's a very peaceful scene here in Anaheim.
Now, it was very peaceful last night until after the rally. From what I understand, the reports were that it was very quiet, and then after the rally, things really heated up, and that's when it got violent. And as the police were saying, it was a gauntlet of hate that the Trump crowd that was there at the rally, as they were leaving, that they say is when it got violent.
Yeah, because the footage that you're rolling around, that's the guy who hit me with a rock right there on the screen. But what the situation was is, if you watch some of our earlier videos during the daytime, when we were talking to the pro-Trump people who were going inside the building, they had the exit blocked, so they couldn't come out because all the protesters, when they breached the barricade, they were standing there at that door that the people had entered to go in. So the protesters were beating on the door, trying to kick in the door, and eventually the officers came out, like I said, the horses riot gear, and slowly started to push the line back. And, this happened over several hours. It wasn't an immediate thing. The protesters breached the barricade, and they slowly were pushed back to the point where they started to attack the officers, throwing bottles, even barricades at them, and the police responded by firing the tear gas.
I'm looking at reports that say that they smashed a glass door that was leading in there. Of course, we see reports that they attacked a guy in a wheelchair. And
yes,
this was, tell us about that. Did you see that?
Yeah, basically, they had the line set up. To give you somewhat of a visual, you see this sidewalk right here behind me. So they had on one side the pro-Trump people, on one side the anti-Trump people. So this guy was in his wheelchair. He was rolling down the sidewalk, and the anti-Trump people decided to assault the guy by throwing a water bottle at him, which was completely pathetic. And I just don't know how they justified using such a heinous action against a guy who was, clearly disabled, not in the means to fight himself. But that just shows you the mentality of these people, David. There's some big, tough operator-looking guys out there, with the khaki pants that Biggs likes to wear. They didn't mess with those guys. They picked on the guy in a wheelchair. That's who they decided to target.
Yeah, they're bullies, and they're filled with hate. But, of course, they're not going to come after them for a hate crime. When I look at the way the media is reporting this, BBC headlines, for example, violent protests at Trump New Mexico rally, they make it very passive, or they make it unclear as to where this aggression is coming from, deliberately doing that. They don't say there were violent protesters against Trump. They say there were violent protesters. Things happened because of Trump is the way that it looks at. But we've got people there who were burning American flags, flying Mexican flags, and yelling insults at people, throwing stuff at people in wheelchairs, yelling things in Spanish at the people who were there.
Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. Just like you said, they didn't want to specify who was doing the violence. As our audience knows, I'm in no way, shape, or form a Donald Trump supporter, but it wasn't the Donald Trump people who were out there doing those horrific things. Everybody I talked to on the pro-Trump side, they were very, polite, well-spoken. They just went inside the event. They said a lot of people weren't even pro-Trump. I met a lot of libertarians out there who said they just wanted to hear what the guy had to say. They didn't want to be filtered through, whatever ex-news agency. They wanted to hear it straight from the guy's mouth what exactly he stood for, and that's what brought them out for that event. But, the pictures speak for themselves, David. We can elaborate on it all day, but you can show that footage of these guys yelling, cussing at men, women, and children, profanities, racial epithets, all type of manner of just shenanigans that went on out there at the event.
Jakari, when we talk about this, and you mentioned libertarians being there, and I watched the libertarian debates they've had where they talk about open borders, and yeah, I understand we want to allow people to move about freely, but there's a difference. This is not the Ellis Island experience that they're trying to sell people. Okay, people didn't come here from Europe, from Italy, from Ireland or Germany or whatever. They didn't come here waving the flags of the countries that they came from and attacking people, trying to shut down their free speech. These are dreamer riots, and at some point we've got to understand that it's not illegal immigration we're talking about. It's illegal invasion that we're talking about. When people come here, they're hostile to your way of life. They're hostile to your form of government. When they get violent and they make demands and they say, we want to make America Mexico, then, what you're talking about here is an invasion. You can't control the number of people who are coming in. They don't want to be assimilated. You have to control the number of people who are coming in at any given point in order to have an assimilation. Instead, this is truly an invasion, I believe. What do you think, Jakari?
Well, the issue is when they hear people talk about, controlling the border, they always bring up the men, women, and children. They'll show the crying grandma on TV who's coming on the border. And yes, that does happen. But you can also go to these ICE facilities. You can also go to the Border Patrol facilities. And you can see some of these guys who come over the border do not come here with the best of intentions. And it's not a racial deal. It's not just people from Mexico and the Central American countries. You got people coming from foreign countries. You got, guys like Al-Qaeda who would love to walk across that border if it wasn't there. You have a border for security.
Oh, absolutely. We've got Obama rushing to get in his quota that he's set for himself, his goal of getting in 10,000 people from Syria this year before he gets out of office. And so what they're doing is they're going through. They've approved just in the last week, just this last let's see, it was Monday alone. There were more than were approved in the entire months of January or February, just in one day. So he's really accelerating this. And so you have to ask yourself, are they vetting these people? If they're going to bring in 10,000 people, what if 1% of them are terrorists? They're going to bring in 100 ISIS members as terrorists. Are they going to be able to vet them for disease when they come in? No, that's not the intention. This is
that they're willing to take.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the point. It's not simply about where these people are coming from, but it is who is coming in. And I think the thing that is really going to turn this election for Donald Trump are the actions of these people. They say we've been mischaracterized. You're saying that we're violent criminals. You're saying that we don't respect America because we come here illegally. What are we seeing there? We're seeing violence. We're seeing people saying, burning the American flag, flying the Mexican flag, and basically they're saying everything. They're showing us that they are everything that Donald Trump accused them of being, and far more. Quite frankly, he wasn't rough enough on them, I don't think.
Well, the thing. I saw a conversation between two Latino men, if that's the politically correct word, and one of the guys was being very nasty and, racial things, profane things. And the other guy said, hey, when you act like this, you make people believe that we're the way that, we're projected to be in the media. He said, if you can come out here and have a calm, civil conversation with somebody and respect them and respect their points of view and actually try to understand why they think the way they do so you can better try to turn them to your cause, that would help you a great deal as opposed to yelling at people and throwing barricades and, lighting fireballs and throwing them at the cops. I don't think that helped their cause at all.
No, it's not at all. Now, you're going to be there. You're in Anaheim. There's going to be a rally tonight, and we'll be looking for videos coming from there. What time is that rally going to start tonight, Jakari?
Well, right now, it's plenty of stuff going on. I'll give you another panoramic. We'll be out here for as long as it takes, David, but there's a lot of people out here right now, people protesting, people pro-Trump, people anti-Trump, so we'll be out here to bring you the latest.
All right, it's already started. Thanks a lot, Jakari Jackson and the InfoWars crew in Anaheim, California. Now, there was an article that came out, and Alex Jones has a report about this, a professor saying it's evil if you read to your children. Let's go to that report.
Again, I just want to commend Michael Zimmerman, Jakari Jackson, and our reporters that have the courage. A lot of mainstream media reporters don't have the courage to go down on these anti-Trump, anti-American, authoritarian riots. But our folks do go into the midst of this. And I just want to say all of our crew, from Rob Dew to Darren McBreen to Kit Daniels, to Don Salazar, to just everybody. All of our reporters, Joe Biggs, you name it, Leanne McAdoo, I can't list them all here, Paul Watson.